Our passage today that we heard on the screen, but it may be a passage that is familiar to you, whether you've been in church before or not, this idea of fruit of the Spirit, of us being more loving, joyful, patient, kind, good, gentle, faithful, and self-controlled. And it's all about how we can be more like Jesus and more like the people that God made us to be. And you might say, well, I'm not really a Christian. I'm not really that bothered about becoming more like Jesus. But I honestly don't think there's anybody out there who wouldn't admit, if they were really honest, that they did want to be a bit more loving or have a bit more joy or maybe be a little bit more patient or kind or gentle or self-controlled. I think all of us probably, if we're honest, would love to be a bit more of those things. I mean, just to check, does anyone here wish they were more greedy? No? Anyone wish they were more full of hate? Anyone wish they were more mean? You see, none of us. Anyone wish they were more patient? Yeah? Oh, yeah. More loving? More self-controlled? And I think the same would be for everyone out there as well. I mean, saying that we want to be more greedy or more hateful, more mean, would be like saying that we'd rather eat a moldy piece of fruit as opposed to a lovely, fresh piece of fruit. I mean, given the choice, would you rather eat that or would you rather eat that? Hopefully, that's a really obvious answer. But how do we do it? How can we make sure we're fruity and fresh and loving and joyful and peaceful rather than being a piece of moldy fruit? How can we go about doing that? Well, Paul tells us in this passage, Paul was the guy who wrote the book that this passage comes from. He told us that actually we have a choice, that actually there's two ways that you can choose to live. Now here I've got two glasses. I'm going to put water in each of them. No profound point to that, I'm just getting ready. We've got two choices, two ways to live. Now, the first choice, into this glass, I'm going to pour some dirty, muddy water. Anyone fancy drinking that? No? So into that one, I'm put dirt. Now, Paul says we can choose to go through life. Do you know, you can choose just to do whatever you want. If it feels good, do it. If you want to treat someone awfully, do it. You can give in to all your worst feelings and all your worst thoughts and temptations. You can choose to do that. And in this passage, Paul calls it desires of the flesh, which sounds very grand, but it basically means sin. We choose sin, and sin just means that we put ourselves before putting God or other people first, that we put ourselves first. That is one choice for how we can choose to live, but you wouldn't want to drink it. You wouldn't want to drink it. So Paul gives us another choice. He gives us a second option. Paul says that instead we can be like this glass of water and we can be asked to fill with the fruit of the Spirit. We can ask to be filled, if you like, with the juice, with the fruit of the Spirit. Which one would you rather drink? There's always one. There's always one. Which one would you rather be? And which one would you rather share with your friends? If your friends came round for tea, would you give them that one? Or would you give them that one? Depends how much you liked them, I guess. But the more that we choose sin, the more we become like that glass. And the more we choose to be filled with the Holy Spirit, the more we become like that glass. Now, this morning, we've just baptized Bethany. And what happens in baptism is that we're saying we belong to Jesus. And when we do that, Paul says in this passage that what we do is we crucify the flesh with all of its passions and desires. In other words, what happens is that Jesus takes us, he cleans us out, washes us clean, and he fills us with new water. And then he says, go on being filled with the Holy Spirit. Go on knowing the fruit that Jesus gives us. And like in that game where it was a choice of which fruit you brought out, is it going to be an apple or a pear or an orange? Often people hear this passage and they think it's fruits of the Spirit. That you can choose whether, I need a little bit more patience, God give me that, or I need a little bit more joy, give me that, or I need to be more kind. And we can kind of choose them like we would choose a different fruit. But actually the passage says it's the fruit of the Spirit. And that means we hit the jackpot. That means when we ask for the Spirit to come, it's not about whether we're more loving or joyful or more patient. It's not about choosing. It's one fruit. And that fruit does all those things. So we don't have to choose. But the more we ask for his Spirit and the fruit of his Spirit, you will be more loving, more joyful, more peaceful, more patient. You won't just be more loving and suddenly your kindness goes down. They all come out together in a jackpot. And that is good news, not just for you, not just for me, not just for us, but it's good news for the whole world as well. Because as we are filled more with the Spirit, as we begin to overflow, then what happens is that goodness, that fruit, that life of the Spirit begins to overflow and have an impact on others as well. Whereas similarly, if we're not filled with the Spirit, if we're choosing sin, then what happens is the more we're filled with it, then it just keeps overflowing and it begins to affect and have an impact on the people and the world around us as well. And so this morning, I just want us each to think again about how we can be filled more with the life of the Spirit. How each one of us, maybe we know where we need to be more loving. I can think of 5 occasions already, and that was even before I got out of bed, where I needed to be more loving, joyful, patient, peaceful, kind, and good. And so as we think about being filled with the Spirit, let's ask God this morning that we become more like Jesus and share his love with the world around us.